Hello everyone and welcome back to another album review, and in this video I'm going to review Everything That Dies Someday Comes Back by Uniform and The Body. This one is the second collaborative album from Uniform and The Body, two of the most important and biggest acts in the underground industrial noise rock scene, both of them with lots of heavy sounds and a lot of refreshing elements to their sound. The Body have a really large discography, and they're usually also known for making a lot of collab albums, which most of the time they come out pretty well. Uniform, on the other hand, while I truly like their approach on sound and I think they're incredible live, none of their studio work so far has managed to grab my attention that much, or really think that in their studio works they're doing something really all that imaginative or refreshing. There are so many great ideas, but every single one of their albums leave a lot to be desired in my opinion. And while I had hopes from the first collab of Uniform and The Body, because I can definitely see the chemistry of both of these artists, the album came out a bit while after the release of one of my favorite The Body works. I have fought against it, but I can't any longer. And in my opinion, their first collab album felt really rushed. Yes, in my opinion, there are some really good ideas and there is a nice chemistry between the two different artists, but the whole thing ended up being disappointing, really short in length, and the songs themselves just felt like a standard mix of some The Body and some Uniform songs. And yeah, the ending result was a kind of disappointing album. So getting into their second collab album over here, 1 year after the release of Mental Wounds Not Healing, I wasn't really expecting all that much, but I was at least hoping for something better, something more fleshed out, something more focused and not as rushed. I was just expecting for a better collaboration. But in my opinion, not only did we get that better album, this is just a far better album in all fronts. Not only that, but in my opinion, Everything That Dies Someday Comes Back comes out as one of the best works from both Uniform and The Body. I mean, in my opinion, it's definitely the best thing I've heard from Uniform so far. But The Body, having such a huge discography, and even though some of the sounds, they're so reminiscent of some of their older stuff, instead of the sound getting older and more repetitive, in this one in particular, it sounds so refreshing. And that's because The Body are usually known for pushing the boundaries, no matter what they put out. And especially when it comes to some collaborations, they tend to go into a heavily industrial tone, something that was really apparent with the two collab projects they did with Full of Hell. And in my opinion, the second track, Not Good Enough, reminds me of something that I would hear out of the collaborations from The Body and Full of Hell. But in my opinion, both artists get out of their league with this album in particular. They push the boundaries in a way that they have never done before. There is a vast array of different sounds and different influences all over the place in this one. The melodies themselves are really simplistic and straightforward, but they make for some really intense moments that at times can be extremely heavy, at other times they might portray a really melancholic feel to them. And the album starts with the extremely heavy Gallows in Heaven, which takes a while since the introduction picks up, but the first half, where is this really ominous distorted instrumental with a really heavy vocals from Uniform, it makes for something that could be straight up power electronics or death industrial. It has that feel. And the transition from the second half, having a nice blend of both The Body and Uniform, makes for a really tight combination and a really nice second half that really picks up and makes the song far more interesting. Then there is the absolute intense Patron Scent of Regret, a track where The Body do not deliver all that much. But what's definitely the most surprising thing is the feature from SRSQ, which blends so well with this whole sound of this track, with her haunting ethereal vocals actually being placed in a sort of industrial trap beat with a ton of distortion and a really nice and interesting atmosphere, and like I said, directions that you wouldn't expect them to go through, but they actually do, and the result is pretty impressive. Never would I thought that this combination of SRSQ haunting vocals with the placement of this really distorted trap beat would make for something that would fit the body and uniform. Then there's also the track Penas, which has a more standard and more usual sound from both the body and uniform, but what's definitely the highlight of this track and the thing that steals the show is those sort of traditional Chinese samples. It feels like it's a sample from traditional Asian music like China or Japan, and it blends really well with those really heavy guitars, which there are a ton in this album. In the guitar works, I like their simplicity. They might be more standard, but the impressive thing throughout this whole album is anything else surrounding it. There is also the really unexpected Day of Atonement, which actually has some southern hip-hop vibes. It is indeed a chopped and screwed track with low-pitched samples. And there's also this really mind-numbingly insane bass drop, and the really dark and grim vocals from the body actually work really well with this type of beat. The delivery from Uniform is also great behind those really heavy guitar riffs. The track Waiting for the End of the World is the weakest track in my opinion. It's mostly a dark ambient instrumental track. It doesn't have really that much to it other than some girl samples here and there. It makes for a mood, it makes for an atmosphere, but this track mostly feels like a filler to the album. It's kind of unnecessary and it doesn't really add up that much to the experience. The album ends with Contempt. In my opinion, it's a really good song, not one of my favorites since it has elements that are being repeated from some of the previous songs on this album, but there are some highlights like the repetitive industrial tone which is in the entirety of the track, and it gives a really extra nice addition to this whole song. There is also a really weird and out of nowhere solo at the second half, including some free improvised noise stuff. And yeah, other than that, that is a really intense, dope album from Uniform and the Body. I didn't expect I would like this collaboration as much as I did, but I'm definitely really glad with this final result, because in my opinion, this one makes from the best work from not only the Uniform but from the Body as well. And even after so many projects, I feel like this one has the best vocal deliveries from both artists. Their chemistry in this album is impeccable, and the variation of the sounds and musical styles, the different experimentations they take with each one of those tracks, makes this their most boundary pushing album, even for their own standards. I'm really pleased with this release. I'm going to give this album an 8 plus out of 10. What's your opinion on this album? Like it, dislike it, why, and what do you want me to review next time? Let me know down in the comments. Leave a like if you enjoyed the video, subscribe for more content like this. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you all in the next video. Goodbye.